Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the Insidious franchise. This franchise is a supernatural horror and it centers around astral projection. I will be doing my ranking and explaining why I chose each film. This video contains spoilers, so this is your warning. Directed by James Wan and writer Leigh Whannell, they are the perfect duo who create an amazing horror in film called Insidious. But this was not the first time they worked together. Back in 2004, James and Leigh created the horror film called Saw, and then in 2007, Dead Silence. Both movies capture different elements of creepiness and tension. When they first decided to do Insidious, they wanted to pay homage to the 1982 movie Poltergeist. Both director and writer didn't want to create another torture porn movie like Saw. They wanted to create a psychological thriller film that would make your skin crawl and witness what would happen if we leave our bodies. Astral projection is an out-of-body experience that is a hallucinatory visual experience that involves seeing the physical body placed in an external visual space. As you can see in the Insidious movie, Elise explains the astral projection and said that there is a darker side called the further, where the evil spirits they wanted to get out so they can use other people's empty vessels as the key to get in. The red door that you see throughout the movie is the main pathway of the further, and is the entrance various portals and layers of the main antagonists of the Insidious movie franchise. I will be doing my ranking starting from the bottom, and that is Insidious Chapter 4, The Last Key. Insidious Chapter 4 is focused on Elise. We get the entire backstory of her childhood, with new people from the future and the time Adam Robitel is directing the film. Adam had directed a couple of horror movies that you might be familiar to. Insidious Chapter 4 is about Dr. Elise Renner faces her most fearsome and personal hauntings yet, as she is drawn back into her ghostly childhood home where the terror begins. The movie stars Lynn Shy, Leigh Whannell, Angus Sampson, Bruce Davison, Josh Stewart, Spencer Lockey, and Caitlin Gerald. I wasn't too fond of this movie. I think the movie was trying to focus on the comedic aspect. Certain parts of the scenes weren't funny, and you can tell that the characters Specs and Tucker kind of missed the mark. The twists in this movie were a little predictable as well. The new monster key face, sometimes called the man with the keys and the key demon, is part of the further, and to be honest, I wanted to see more of him. The key demon is played by Tristiana Medeiros in the Wreck film series, and he's also the crooked man in The Conjuring 2. The key demon uses his fingers as keys to mute the victims' voices and shuts down their bodies. He also uses Elise's father, Gerald, who feeds on the hatred inflicted by him. Gerald begins kidnapping nurses and locking them in the basement, eventually killing them with the cane and hiding their bodies in a ventilated shaft. The cinematography is kind of different. It doesn't give the reds and we don't see enough blue tones. I do like how the movie ties together at the end of the first Insidious. I love Elise in this movie. She gave an amazing performance. Insidious Chapter 2 is the continuation of the first Insidious film, but this time is focused on Josh Lambert, played by Patrick Wilson. After Josh saved his son from the further, it seems that he brought an unwanted guest back into the real world. The movie brings back the original cast along with some new people including Lindsay Sam, Steve Coulter, and Danielle Biscotti. The tone of the film was to be more grounded than the first film, with Wan citing his work on The Conjuring as the influence of how he and Whannell approaches Insidious Chapter 2. Around the time Insidious Chapter 2 came out in 2013, The Conjuring film came out the same year as well. In Wan's statement, he said that I will put things from Insidious that I apply to The Conjuring, and what I've learned from The Conjuring, I apply to Insidious Chapter 2. So for me, I feel like it's a cumulative filmmaking experience that I gather over the years. The film brings more monsters and a unique backstory of the bride in black. Josh Lambert brings an outstanding performance with his dialogue and one-liners, and even though the movie is okay, I felt like the movie was too long and could have been a little bit shorter. I felt like they should have brought new monsters to the movie and gave a backstory as well to make it even more interesting. Insidious Chapter 3 brings a new story introducing the Brenner's family. This movie is a prequel set before the haunting of the Lambert family that reveals how gifted psychic Elise Renner reluctant agrees to use her ability to contact the dead in order to help a teenage girl who has been targeted by a dangerous supernatural entity. This is Leigh Whannell's directorial debut. The movie is starring Stephen Scott, Dermot Mulroney, Lynn Shine, Leigh Whannell, and Angus Sampson. I really like this movie and most people weren't too fond of it. Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 58%, which I disagree with. The set of the film was in an apartment complex, but it still had a haunted house feel to it, and the writer still brings astral projection in the film. The cinematography has blue tones and we don't see that much red, and that's fine. We get to see a new evil monster called the Man Who Can't Breathe. Writer and director Leigh Whannell told casting that he wanted the Man Who Can't Breathe to look like the sloth victim in the 1995 movie Seven. The same actor Michael Reed McKay was cast for that role. I love how the movie dives into the story and we get to know Elise a little bit better. I'm not going to lie, this movie really terrified me, especially in the scene where the Man Who Can't Breathe grabs Quinn, throws her off the bed, and she's laying on the floor, and he shuts the blinds and closes the door. He wants the room to be dark. I would never forget that scene. In 2010, movie Insidious, surrounded by the Lambert family, looks to prevent evil spirits entrapping their comatose child in a realm called the Further. The movie stars Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, Ty Simpkins, Lynn Shine, Angus Sampson, and Leigh Whannell that plays Specs. The film was originally going to be named The Further, but I'm glad the name was changed. The movie focused on the little boy Dalton that has an out-of-body experience that goes further until he meets a lipstick face demon that traps him from not leaving. The storyline stays on track and not all over the place. It brings a lot of frights and scares that are unexpected, especially with Red Face Demon that was behind Josh's back at the kitchen table. When I first watched this film, I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. That's how much this movie really impacted me. Not only was I terrified, I wanted more. And not only do the story and the characters makes the movie, but the musical score also brings the tone of the movie as well. The musical score to the Insidious film was composed by Joseph Bashari, who appears in the film as the lipstick face demon. The cinematography brings grays and a lot of reds, and the script was supposed to focus on all 6 different ghosts in that movie and hoping for developing their different backstories in later sequels. After The Bride in Black turned out the most popular of the film after the premiere, producers abandoned the rest of the ghosts to focus on Bride in Black. The movie brings terrifying and unsettling tension, which I love, and that's why this one is my favorite. Here is how I watch the Insidious movies. I go by the timeline in chronological order. Overall, I enjoy the movies. I think each movie has its own unique style and twists, and I can't wait for Insidious 5 to come out and going to be directed by Patrick Wilson. Thank you for watching and make sure you subscribe to my channel, and until then, see you later.